Hope you're comfortable, because you're going to be sitting there watching this for a while. This stage is pretty long, and it is built entirely around the notion of throwing enemies at you that are going to make it as hard as possible for you to shoot them, because they're constantly moving in erratic positions, or sometimes they're just placed in places where you can't hit them, or sometimes they have solid defenses put up, or even sometimes they're just covered by other enemies shooting stuff at you. This stage is I would go so far as to say this is a legitimate fortress stage. I would have stuck this stage in the fortress, and I know exactly which one I would have taken out to put this one in there instead, but we'll get to that at a later point. The main problem in this stage, is, as you've probably already figured out by now, is going to be the rabbits. There are three types of rabbits. They're the normal pink-dressed ones that just run around and hop every so often. They're a pain in the ass, but at least they don't shoot anything at you. There are the brown-dressed rabbits, which hop 3 times and then stop. They're probably the easiest of the 3 to take out because they actually stop and give you a chance to shoot them before they start shooting at you. The worst ones are the blue ones that are hopping almost constantly and will fire aimed shots at you. And all 3 of them take about the same number of hits. I think it's 5, maybe 4 or 5 from the Mighty Buster there. And they are very quite often, as you saw with that blue one right there. They're very quite often in places that's going to make them really hard to hit. The blue ones are very, very hard to hit from below because you have to jump in time with them, making sure that you time your shots so that they'll land on top of them. And then you also have to make sure that you jump in time so that the shots they're firing don't hit you. There's other standard fairies floating around all over the place. Lots of fairies that are often you're not in a position to hit them, either because they're too high on the screen or they're too low. Oh, what else? Okay, this stage is, at least in this run, this stage is your introduction to the Prism River Sisters, which will function as the Joes of this game. And there are 3 of them, and they each have their own distinct threat level, I guess you could say. The trumpeter was, the blue and white trumpeter was Merlin. She did the sine wave shots. She is basically there. She's only dangerous when surrounded by other things going on, because her pattern is the same every single time. There's no excuse for getting hit by what she's shooting out unless you're cornered into it, so she's no threat at all. Lidica is the red-white one with the keyboard that's currently on the screen right now. She's not particularly much of a threat either, but she's slightly more of a threat than Merlin because her shots are at least random. And sometimes, she's also easier to mix up with other things than Merlin is, because since her stuff is random, you don't see it coming the same way every time. The violinist, the black and gold violinist, is Lunasa. She's the one that is the major pain even on her own, never mind when accompanied by her sisters, because her shots are homing, and there's always 3 in a row, so it's never just one and you're done, and it's easy to dodge. And they're homing constantly, so each individual set of 3 shots the middle one is going to home in on you, so it's not going to be one long stream that's going to be easy to dodge either. What else is going on the stage? Okay, now we've reached, after all that aggravation trying to shoot things out of range and then constantly putting up defenses, we're now in the worst part of this stage. We have the rabbit mechs falling from the ceiling. These things are an absolute pain in the ass to kill, and when they're over pits, they will constantly get in your way. I think it takes about 8 to 10 Marisa Buster shots to kill one of these things. And heaven help you if Marisa has low to no health, because you're not taking them out with Alice unless you run into them and use the cone of the laser trick. The cone does more damage and hits more often. That's the only way you're taking them out with Alice. She just simply does not do enough damage. They don't stay on the screen long enough. You're certainly not taking them out until they've flown past you. Whereas with Marisa, you can sometimes get them before they start becoming a threat. But yeah, they constantly come down that stream from above bottomless pits, kind of the opposite of the up and downs and the other various enemies that Mega Man has thrown at you, popping out of pits. And they will very gladly just run right into you and knock you straight into that pit. And there really isn't a damn thing you can do about it unless you have this is fantastic, like jumping skills of a frog. Like I tried to demonstrate there, but it was not always that great. This area right here, this is our first energy tank in this run. This energy tank is, you get to see more hopping around like a clown to avoid these stupid things, by the way. This energy tank is why 18 is basically the correct second stage to go to. Even though Chirno was the wrong first stage, 18 is the correct second stage because you want to have the energy tank. You want to get the energy tanks out of the way. especially if you're going for like a run that's just straight sit down and play rather than using passwords, because passwords will save energy tanks. So there's little sense of not using them unless you want the extra challenge added in. But because of the energy tank, getting it early and out of the way, because it's not very easy to get, and it's very easy to die in that room, which is why Eirin is the second stage you should be going to. Speaking of, here she is herself, and this battle is a tremendous pain in the ass. It's an excellent imitation of its boss imitating stage, or stage imitating boss, whichever one you like. It is the boss. Eirin is constantly in places where it's really hard to hit her, partly because of the terrain and partly because of all the other shit she's spewing out at you. She has 4 distinct attacks, and really none of them are trivial to avoid. They're all annoying to avoid in their own ways. There's the arrow spam, which is obvious. They have the Hodai elixir, those 3 green balls of energy. Those take a lot of hits to take out. The only reason they're going down as fast as they are in this battle is because I'm using the cone of the laser trick on them. The meteors obviously are no threat on their own, but usually they get coupled with other things. And also, whenever she fires one off, she's firing it off from the bottom of the pit down there, so you're not going to be hitting her with anything if you're doing a busted duel run. And then there's the Black Lotus, the stuff that crawls along the ground. There's 2 of each of those. You have to make sure you jump over those properly. It's a very fun fight, but it's a lot of stuff to dodge. And usually her philosophy is just to overwhelm the screen and just try to take you out before you take her out, and she usually succeeds in that. The next boss we visit will be Yuyuko Saigyoji, and she is, at the very least, she is no better, and very likely she is worse.